If you're trying to work your way up to 400-foot drives, it can get pretty easy to get caught into trying to shuffle through all the little minute details of a form while missing some of the bigger things. But I really think that most people can get to 400 feet, and I think that truthfully, there's only 3 things that you need to be focusing on in order to get there. And a lot of the other stuff figures itself out as you practice and learn. "403 feet on a warm-up with 0 ground play. It just hit and stuck. Let's go."
Hot beef.
So how am I so confident that there's 3 major things to focus on and the rest of them flush themselves out? Well, let's say that you and I both throw this disc flat. There's only 3 things that are going to change the way this disc flies, right? Nose angle, spin rate, and its release speed, right? Those 3 things are going to dictate how this disc flies. And each of those 3 things can be manipulated with one specific position or movement. I'm going to share those with you. All right, so task number 1, throw nose down. Now there's a million videos out there that talk about pouring the coffee, and that is absolutely great advice. But there's one thing you can do to make that easier on yourself to engage as you're throwing, and that is by the very nature of what your fingers are doing in your grip, right? Now, when we talk about grip, like a lot of people think that I'm just squeezing my fingers into the side of the flight plate, but really these bottom fingers, they are pulling down, and my thumb is pushing up on the disc, right? So the bottom fingers are pulling backwards and the front thumb is pushing forward. This keeps my grip in position to be able to keep the coffee poured without really having to think about using my forearm to keep it that way throughout the entirety of my reach back and follow through. All right, task number 2. Spin rate, right? This will manipulate the flight of a disc as well. I talked about this in a recent video about throwing over 400, but increasing spin rate means moving your hand around the disc as the last part of your throw, right? So it's almost like if you were grabbing a steering wheel, you can't move the steering wheel's like angle, but you can move a steering wheel around, right? If you were gonna drift that car, the last part of your form is you reaching around, like your hand moving around the disc. You'll see a lot of really great throwers like Matty O, Austin Turner, who are very, very good at making this very visible. Spin keeps a disc in the air. Much like a bullet stays in flight for a long duration because it's rotating, right? A disc has to be spinning to stay in the air as well. The more it's spinning, the more it will be able to maintain flight. All right, task number 3, release speed, right? The rate at which the disc is flying through the air, right? In miles or kilometers per hour, however you want to measure it, right? The primary thing that I think a lot of people are struggling with is that they think that they have to coil, right, their shoulders. And you do, right? Absolutely. If I were going to throw in that direction, I'd want to coil my shoulders. But if I just coil my shoulders, and I know I'm kind of built like a top-heavy Oompa Loompa, if I try to coil them just alone, I'm not really coiled at all. In fact, I have to coil my hips to be able to fully extend and uncoil my hips to be able to get my whole kinetic chain to engage, right? So a lot of people aren't coiling their hips to increase that miles per hour. And the speed difference is drastic, right? If I just coil my shoulders, I can get it pretty good. But if I coil my hips, I can get it so much faster. Right, so pull backwards with your bottom fingers, push forward with your thumb, move your hand around the disc as the last part of your throw, and make sure to coil and uncoil your hips. And you've begun the major problems that a lot of people face when trying to throw 403 feet. If you're actively thinking about a lot of other stuff during your throw, you probably forget the major things and you're complicating it too much. Let your body figure out the little stuff and just think about these big things during your throw. And go out and practice and hit 400. See you in the next one.
Hot beef.